There are so many people on the internet selling you this dream of becoming rich quick and becoming a millionaire tomorrow.
Buy my course and you'll be rich. Buy this crypto now.
Make sure you buy this stock.
The list goes on and on. I'm sorry to break it to you, but unless you get lucky, the chances of you becoming a millionaire tomorrow are very slim to none, and you will lose a lot of money trying to get rich quick. But why am I even making this video then? Well, in this video, I'll be going over some ETFs that you can buy that will actually make you a millionaire, guaranteed. I'm gonna go over the best ETFs that you can have in your portfolio and give you the exact formula step by step on how you can become a millionaire through ETFs. You won't be a millionaire tomorrow, but I guarantee you if you're consistent, you will reach millionaire status. Let's dive right in. To categorize these ETFs, I'll go from most conservative to a little bit more risky. The first ETF on today's list is ticker symbol VTI, or Vanguard's Total Stock Market ETF. So you can see Vanguard's VTI here, and you can see that the current price is at $248.99. And since inception, the fund has returned over 334%. VTI tracks every single stock in the stock market, so it covers the entire US stock market in one fund. You can see here that VTI's current price sits at $248.99, and its all-time return sits at over 334%. If you scroll down here, you can see that the fund seeks to track a market cap weighted portfolio that provides a total market exposure to the US equity space. So pretty much the entire stock market. It consists of over 3,700 stocks, and they're mostly weighted towards the large caps. If you scroll down to the sectors, you can see that 28% is in technology, 12% in finance, 12% in healthcare, 11% in consumer cyclical, 9% in industrials, and 8% in communication services, and so on and so forth. The top 10 holdings in VTI include Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Google, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, and many more. You can see most of the top 10 holdings are large cap stocks. If you scroll down more, you can see some stats. The expense ratio is 0.03%, so you would just pay $3 for every $10,000 that you invest annually. You scroll down more, you can see the average annual return for 1 year sits at 19%, 3 years at 9%, 5 years at 13%, and 10 years at 12%. If you're someone who just wants to invest into one fund and chill, VTI is a great option. Next up, we have ticker symbol SCHD, or the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. You can see we have SCHD here, and the current price is at $77.34 per share, and over time the total return sits at 209%. If you scroll down here, you can see that the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF tracks a market cap weighted index of 100 dividend paying US companies. You can see that SCHD currently holds just 104 stocks, and if you look at the sectors, there's 16% in healthcare, 16% in industrials, 16% in financial services, 13% in technology, and more. Let's look at the top 10 holdings. You can see Broadcom, AbbVie, Merck, Home Depot, Amgen, Chevron, Verizon, PepsiCo, Cisco, and more. You can see the companies in this ETF have a good mixture of growth and high dividend payouts. You can see the expense ratio is just 0.06%, so you would pay just $6 annually for every $10,000 invested. If you scroll down more, you can see the annual average return. So 1 year is 3%, 3 years is 9%, 5 years is 12%, and 10 years is almost 12% as well. This is a great ETF for anyone who wants a mixture of dividend yield and growth. Next up, we have VOO, or Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF. You've probably heard of VOO, and for good reason, because this is a fund that tracks the entire S&P 500 index, which is the 500 most powerful companies in the US. You can see the price per share of VOO is $459.84, and the all-time return sits at 348%. If you scroll down here, you can see the number of holdings in VOO is 508. If you look at the sectors, there's 30% in technology, so it's really high in tech stocks, 12% in healthcare, 12% in financial services, 11% in consumer, 9% in communication services, 8% in industrials, and more. Let's look at the top 10 holdings. You can see 7% in Apple, 7% in Microsoft, almost 4% in Amazon, 3% in Nvidia, and more. Let's scroll down here. You can see the expense ratio is 0.03%, which is one of the lowest expense ratios for an ETF at just $3 annually for every $10,000 invested. Scroll down here. You can see the average annual return at 20% in 1 year, 11% in 3 years, 14.26% in 5 years, and almost 13% in 10 years. This is a really good ETF that a majority of investors hold in their portfolio. The next ETF is ticker symbol SPY, or the SPDR S&P 500 ETF. This ETF is pretty much exactly like VOO and tracks the entire S&P 500 index. If you look at SPY here, the current price per share is $500.30, and the max over time return is 268%. 10%. If you scroll down here, you can see about SPY. It tracks a market cap weighted index of US large and mid cap stocks, and the current number of holdings is 504 holdings. The sectors in this fund are pretty much identical to VOO, so around 30% in tech, almost 13% in healthcare, financial services, consumer, communication services, real estate, and more. The top 10 holdings are also similar to VOO, so 7% in Microsoft, almost 7% in Apple, 4% in Nvidia, 4% in Amazon, and more. If you go down here, the current expense ratio sits at 0.09%, so a little bit more expensive than VOO and VTI. So you would pay $9 annually for every $10,000 invested. If you scroll down here, you can see the annual average return. So 1 year is 20.6%, 3 years at 11%, 5 years at 14.2%, 10 years at almost 13%. The biggest difference between VOO and SPY is the expense ratio, but other than that, they're pretty much identical. Next up, we have ticker symbol VGT, or the Vanguard Information Technology ETF. The majority of holdings in VGT are technology companies, and because tech stocks have boomed so much, the returns of VGT are pretty extensive. If you look at VGT here, the current price per share is $518.69, and the max overtime return sits at 964%. Just look at that chart. Oh my goodness. If you scroll down here, you can see more about the fund. It tracks a market cap weighted index of companies in the US information technology sector, and it currently holds 315 stocks. If you look at the sectors, you'll see what I mean when I say that this fund is pretty much all in technology. The top 10 holdings include pretty much all tech stocks, so 21% of Apple, 19% of Microsoft, 4% of Nvidia, 4% of Broadcom, 2% in Adobe, and more. If you scroll down to the stats, the current expense ratio sits at 0.1%, so a little bit higher than the others. So you would pay $10 annually for every $10,000 invested. That's still very low, but just keep that in mind. If you scroll down here, you can also see the annual average return. So the annual average return for 1 year is 42%, 3 years at 13%, 5 years at 23%, 10 years at 20%. Like I mentioned earlier, because this ETF is so heavily concentrated in technology, it is a little bit more on the riskier side, so just keep that in mind when buying this ETF. Next up, we have ticker symbol VUG, or the Vanguard Growth ETF. VUG is an ETF that holds companies that are geared towards higher growth. You can currently see the price per share is $335.88, and the max overtime return is 578%. If you scroll down here, you can see that VUG holds 211 stocks, and the sectors are pretty much half in technology, 16% in consumer, 13% in communication services, 8% in healthcare, and more. Let's look at the top 10 holdings. 13% in Apple, 13% in Microsoft, 7% in Amazon, 5% in Nvidia, and so on and so forth. If you scroll down here, you can see the expense ratio sits at just 0.04%, which is very low, which means you would pay just $4 annually for every $10,000 invested. Here's the average annual return for VUG. 1 year is 36%, 3 years at 9%, 5 years at 18%, and 10 years at 15%. This is a great ETF to buy if you're someone who's geared more towards growth rather than value. Now, how do you buy these ETFs on a platform such as Robinhood? Check this out. All you have to do is click the search icon at the top right, type in the ticker symbol of the ETF that you want to buy. So let's say VGT. You can see that it pops up right here, and click on trade here and click on buy. And what you're going to do is put in the number of shares that you want. So let's say you want 1 share. It's going to show you the current price per share, so $518, and the estimated cost, which is $518 for 1 share. Right after that, you're going to click trade now and just swipe up to confirm your trade. It's that easy. Now that you know which ETFs will make you a millionaire, what's the plan? Let's go over exactly what you need to do step by step in order to become a millionaire through ETFs. First, you need to decide how much you can invest every single month. For today's example, let's say you can invest $500 per month. And let's say you buy an ETF such as VTI, which has a 10-year return of 11%. Looking at this calculator, let's say you put in $500 per month with an 11% return. Let's say you do that for the next 30 years. After 30 years of investing, you would have over $1.4 million. If you scroll down here, you can see that your starting amount was $100, your total contributions was $180,000, but the total interest that you earned was over $1.2 million. You can see this chart right here that shows the green, which is your total contributions, and the total interest that you earn every year, which leads us to $1.2 million. That's the power of compound interest. Now let's take another example where you choose to invest into an ETF such as VGT, which is a little bit more aggressive, and the 10-year return of VGT is around 20%. So let's say you put in $500 per month with a 20% return, After 30 years, you would have over $11.5 million. If you scroll down here, you can see your starting amount, the total contributions, which stays the same at $180,000. But due to compound interest, the total interest that you'll earn is over $11.3 million. That is crazy. The most important part of this plan is you need to stay consistent, so investing consistently every single month into the same ETF. Yeah, you won't become a millionaire tomorrow, but if you invest consistently, it will definitely pay off in the long term and you will become a guaranteed millionaire. If you're new to investing and want to get started with Robinhood, use my link below to sign up and you and I will both get a free stock. That is it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, my name is Paul and I talk all things money, finance, and investing. So if you like this type of content, please smash that like button and subscribe for more future videos just like this. Your life is a masterpiece, so let's unlock your full financial potential together. And with that, I will catch you in the next video. Take care.